In this video, we will be going over the first passage of G19 Reading, which is the April 2024 test. If you have not already completed this test, I recommend that you click the link below and go ahead and at least read through the passage so that we can answer the questions together. But if you would like to go ahead and do the passage and then come back and check your work, you could do that as well. Alright, so for number 1, the main purpose of the passage is for the author to describe his recollection of significant events from his childhood, personal philosophy about what constitutes home, theory that most people don't understand the concept of home, or hometown and how it's remained mostly unchanged since 1979. So the correct answer here is going to be B. The main purpose is for the author to describe his personal philosophy about what constitutes a home. Now you could get this from a couple different places in the passage, but I think the first paragraph is where it's most obvious. The author says, "Home is where our individual memories are rooted and never disappear. It's a haven for birth and death. It's the place where we return to when we need to adjust to the new energies the world presses upon our daily lives." So in the first paragraph, the author is listing his opinions about what a home is. So for that reason, it's going to be B. It can't be A because while we did mention a few events from his childhood, that wasn't the main purpose of the passage, was to tell us that. So it's not A. Theory that most people don't understand the concept of home. They don't really mention that most people don't understand what home is, and here's what it is. So that would not be the main purpose. And then also it can't be D because the author states that their hometown has changed a lot since they've left in 1979. Alright, number 2. The author most strongly suggests that when he was a boy, the time he spent in the desert surrounding his hometown was primarily marked by fascination and fear, celebration and mourning, exploration and solitude, or innocence and recklessness. The correct answer for this one is H, exploration and solitude. And we can get this from the third paragraph. It says, "Memories of wandering the desert alone as a boy and teaching myself about the rocks, the fossils stuck inside them, and the tarantulas scuttling across my dirt path pull me back home." Then we go on to talk about some happy experiences, the climb up the muddy arroyos after a desert rain, riding tiny paddle boats. So that's where we get the solitude and exploration. For these two-part questions, we have to make sure that both of the answer choices are true. So we might say that he was fascinated by his childhood, but we can't say fear, right? Nowhere in this paragraph did it talk about how he was fearful when he was a child. Likewise, it didn't mention that he was mourning anything or that he was reckless. So for that reason, it just has to be H. Alright, number 3. The metaphor the author uses of the invisible nest of roots in lines 20 to 22 mainly help emphasize the idea that the author... So let's take a look back at this paragraph. It says, "As a native of the Southwest, I know my home will always be the desert surrounding El Paso and the southern New Mexico area. I left in 1979, but have never been able to create a natural sense of home in other cities where I've lived. The memory of the desert creates an invisible nest of roots that allows a native to wander far before finding a way back." So the answer for this one is C, that she feels deeply and ceaselessly connected to the desert southwest. In the passage, he says that they know their home will always be the desert, right? So deeply and ceaselessly connected, they cannot be disconnected from the desert. It will always be their home, they will always be able to find a way back. So it's not that they've resided in many locations far from the desert. It does talk about that they've left, but the invisible nest of roots doesn't describe or emphasize that the author has lived elsewhere. B says conflicting memories about El Paso and southern Mexico area. No, it says the memory of the Rio Grande passing its pain of Mud South is one I sleep with. So it mentions some memories, but again, the invisible nest of roots refers to the entanglement of like her connection or feelings to the desert, no matter where she goes. D is a little tricky because it does mention Franklin Mountains if you kept reading, but it's not what the invisible nest of roots, allowing a native to wander far before finding their way back, is referring to. Or it's not telling us that they're more drawn to the Franklin Mountains than the desert. So be really careful for these ones. For number 4, the main point of lines 35 through 44 is that regarding the author's feelings about home, he is... So 35 through 44 is where we're talking about our negative experiences from a childhood, like being alone in the desert and wandering around, teaching ourselves about rocks and fossils, but also the positive memories that we had, like climbing the muddy arroyos, riding the paddle boats at the amusement park, etc. So this would be not glad that he spent so much time, but that he was pulled by both difficult and pleasant memories. He wasn't upset about family relationships or surprised by the memories that surface when he visits. Yeah. Okay, number 5. The author uses the word natural in line 19 mainly to convey the idea that what he's searching for in other cities is a sense of home that feels. So, if we take a look at this one, I left in 1979, but have never been able to create a natural sense of home in other cities where I've lived. So by natural sense of home, they just mean like a genuine or real sense of home that feels natural, that feels like it comes easily. So for that reason, it's going to be the authentic and innate.